What is the three-period lesson? The three-period lesson is a hallmark of Montessori education that helps young children learn vocabulary and new concepts and demonstrates the purposes of a material. These lessons allow for a slower, easier absorption process and allows for isolated concepts and the reinforcement of each step or component of a lesson as necessary. The three-period lesson was originally created by Edouard Séguin, a French physician who worked with children with exceptionalities in France and in the US during the late 19th century. He identified methods to enhance children's cognitive abilities and emphasized the importance of fostering their self-reliance and independence. Seguin's work greatly influenced Maria Montessori, serving as the foundation for many of her practical approaches. At its most basic, the three-period lesson is simply a lesson in three parts. In simple terms, the three steps or periods are 1. Naming, or the introduction phase. This is a dog. Number 2, the recognition or identification phase. Show me the dog. And number 3, the remembering or cognition phase, the recall period. What is this? The first period is the introduction period or the naming period. This period marks the child's initial introduction to a new topic. Here, the focus is solely on providing the name for the concept and giving the child the opportunity to explore it. This is not the time for detailed explanations or discussions of expected outcomes. The goal is simply to name the item or concept, allowing the child to engage with it independently. The guide begins by introducing a concept or material, repeatedly naming or demonstrating it. For more complex materials, multiple introductory lessons may be necessary. The phrase, "this is often used in the first period. For example, when presenting the Montessori geometric solids, the teacher might hold up the sphere and say, "This is a sphere." The child is then handed the sphere and given the opportunity to explore it. They may feel the shape of it or roll it, and when finished, the teacher might repeat sphere. The second period is the recognition phase. It helps the child form associations. In my opinion, this is the most important and the most fun phase. This period does not have a set time frame. It lasts for as long as it takes for the child to fully grasp new learning. It can extend across weeks and even months, but should never be rushed. In this period, the child is given the opportunity to explore the concept or material, reinforcing the name or the material itself and creating a visual association and a deep understanding. The phrase commonly used during this period is "show me." For example, "show me the sphere." The second period often includes games and hands-on activities. For example, a teacher might say, "Roll the sphere to Harper. Put the sphere behind your back. Hand me the sphere. I'm going to put a shape under the rug. Close your eyes and tell me, where is the sphere?" Again, like I said, it's a lot of fun and probably the most important period there is. The third period is the recall period. In this period, the teacher asks the child to identify the materials independently, without any hints. Mastery of this stage indicates readiness to progress to more advanced concepts and materials. The third period is a form of authentic assessment in a Montessori classroom. The phrase often used during this period is, "What is this?" The teacher points to the material while asking this question, not providing any hints, such as in the second period, when the name of the object is still provided through phrases like, "Show me the red ball." In this period, the child must be able to independently recall the vocabulary or the concept, indicating mastery. This step is only used when the teacher is confident that the child knows each concept to ensure that they experience success and do not feel defeated by failure. We never want to set them up for failure if they don't know the right answer and quell their spirit. So observation and lots of practice in the second period is vital. In general, When teaching something new in Montessori, we try to avoid pointing out when the child gets something wrong. If a student makes a mistake during the second period or the third, the teacher just acknowledges what the child has shown them. That's the red ball. And then shows them the correct label and object pairing again at another time. We want students to be confident in their abilities and motivated to keep trying. Instead of saying, no, that's not the blue ball, that's the red ball. We can simply focus on what they have shown us. You've handed me the red ball, instead of on their mistakes. Often, if we're constantly correcting, we'll see children lose self-esteem and lose interest in trying. And we want them to be motivated, lifelong, excited learners. The 3-period lesson looks a little different at the elementary level. We do at times use more of the classic 3-period lesson we just discussed, such as with a lot of the geometry materials, maybe even some of the geography concepts like land and water forms or US states. But in elementary, we really harness the child's sensitive periods for imagination and exploration and discovery that exists between the ages of 6 to 12. And even the very first introductions, the stories or key lessons, as we call them in Montessori, that introduce new material involve a lot of fun play with the children. For instance, when introducing the concepts of point, line, plane, and solids, we don't just introduce the vocabulary. We have the children work with these concepts. The teacher might draw a large dot and say, well, that's not really a point because it's too big. And then do it again with a smaller dot and keep going and going, making it smaller and smaller. We might say, take this solid and put it in a safe place. No, you moved it. Put it in a safe place. This helps them come to the realization that the solid is solid. It takes up space. They really start to internalize what the term solid really means. In the second period, instead of just asking the child, show me this or show me that, the teacher might ask, where in this classroom do you think you could find a point? Do you think that's a point? Is this a point? We are still providing the name and asking the child to recognize it, but the practice is much more engaging, inviting that exploratory sense and that socialization that elementary children crave. These were examples of what the 3-period lesson might look like in a single presentation. However, what you might find more typically when it comes to the 3-period lesson at the elementary level is an expansion. What we just described was really the first period in and of itself. It's those key lessons. The second period for the elementary child is a practice phase. It's that follow-up work that they're doing. It's the work they're choosing to continue practicing the concepts that have been introduced to them. And finally, the third period is the child demonstrating or showing what they know. It's realizing through observation that they've mastered that concept and they're ready for a new presentation. The 3 periods, though, are much more than just a lesson. It's really a structure for learning that can be seen throughout the Montessori approach. This structure for learning begins with an introduction to whatever topic or concept or skill it is that we're learning that has to be introduced. Then there's a practice phase where we interact with the information or practice the skill. And then we come to a place of mastery in the third period. The 3 periods are also seen in other spaces in the Montessori world, like the 3-year age groupings that comprise the Montessori multi-age classroom, such as the 3 to 6, 6 to 9, and 9 to 12-year-old environments. In this setup, the first year is the child's introduction to the class. The second year, they return and they're continuing to practice and build skills. And their third year then builds on the previous 2 as the child becomes a class leader and really masters the knowledge and understanding and the skills presented at this level. The 3 periods can also be seen in the Montessori 3-hour work cycle. And this is an uninterrupted period of time each morning that Maria Montessori observed that should be protected to allow children to engage in deep, meaningful concentration. In the first hour, the children choose easier, more familiar works. This is the introduction phase. In the second hour, they continue practicing familiar work. And then in the third hour, they often ask for a new lesson or choose the most challenging work. This is that mastery phase. This 3-period cycle has also been identified in the practice of new Montessori teachers. In their first year in the classroom, they're in that introductory phase. The second year is when they continue practicing and refining their skills. And year 3 is when they really begin to work towards mastery of their craft. Thank you for joining us as we discuss the 3-period lesson, a powerful tool for guiding children towards deeper understanding and mastery in Montessori education. We'd love to hear from you in the comments. Share an example of how you have used the 3-period lesson to support a child's learning, or a moment when you saw the lesson spark clarity and confidence in a child. Maybe you can even think of another example of how the 3 periods relate to Montessori philosophy and pedagogy. Tell us below, and be sure to subscribe for more Montessori insights. We can't wait to hear your stories.